Are you fucking kidding me? Check 1, 2. Check. No, I did not click on that. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking, DNC Night 2 edition. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, of course. Always proudly broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. We have quite a few comments. Look, we're already kicking off with two waves before we even began the program. We've got a few messages from viewers after yesterday's program that we're going to get to. We're going to talk about the Obama's speeches, some of the other speeches, kind of typical, about 30-some minutes of railing against Trump and insulting Trump. And then a couple minutes towards the end of the speech to talk about unifying. We'll mention that. I think the interesting contrast of one speaker getting up there earlier in the broadcast and saying, railing against the rich, and the next speaker talking about how rich he is. We'll talk about that as well. Interesting that both were cheered on. Some of the protest updates, some about the Harris campaign in general, the Trump campaign in general. First, from a viewer after yesterday's program. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. So I fibbed. I did turn it off, meaning the day one of the DNC, at 7:50. But made the mistake to tune in later to hear Biden. Never did, because it got too late. Huge mistake. I've never heard so many lies in a short time, and it actually made me queasy. Went to bed with a headache and tossed until 4:30. Woke up at 8:10, so I missed, Frankly Speaking. But lucky for you, I would have monopolized your show with my rants. Well, thank you very much for that comment. Another comment from late last night. This viewer, must have been watching all of the DNC coverage. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. We're going to count that one. All the speakers of the DNC convention this evening were very creepy, cringy, and a very hopeless group of idiots. Those are the viewer's words, not mine. With no vision or solutions to make America great again. The speakers never discussed policies that will make American lives better. The Democrat Party are a bunch of delusional humans that tell you anecdotal stories of yesteryear to con you into believing that they have your back. They took Joe Biden out with a presidential coup and tell you stories about friendship that never existed. Yeah, I guess there was even... so if you were paying attention, Harris did a virtual call-in to the convention. Harris was actually on the campaign trail. And it was said that Harris went on the campaign trail out of respect for Biden because the Obamas were speaking, and there's not a lot of love lost right now between the Obamas and Biden because this is really the second time they've convinced him not to run for president. Also, there's still that infighting with Nancy Pelosi. But I'll continue. The Democrats tell you another story about division and blame it on the Republican Party. What has Joe Biden and Kamala Harris done? Absolutely nothing in 3 years. And Donald Trump has been making that point on the campaign trail, and I think it's an effective point that, Harris talks about day one, what she'll do day one. Well, she's had 3.5 years. Why has she not done it? If all these things are going to, quote unquote, fix the economy, fix the border, et cetera, why were they not done day one? Because we were told by the Biden administration that Harris has been in on every negotiation, every conversation. Continuing with this viewer, we the people were told electing the Democrat Party would be a party of change and adults running the country. They talk a lot of nonsense and never have a plan of action and play the blame game. The Trump advance ticket talk about solutions that have been successful. And America was a prospering and respected throughout the world during the Trump administration. The entire world is suffering due to the current Biden-Harris pre-kindergarten administration. We need a leader like the Trump Vance ticket that has positive solutions and will take actions to fix America's and the world's current problems. Thank you, viewer. I'm not sure if you're watching because it looks like you stayed up pretty late to watch the coverage. But to your point, the Trump campaign is rolling out even more plans and solutions where if you watch the DNC, it's a lot of attacks, even Politico mentioning this morning that it's a Donald Trump show, essentially. That everything is focused on their attacks on Trump without real substance and policy, which is troubling because you have Harris who came out of the smoke without receiving one vote from the Democratic Party to be the presidential nominee. Yet here she is. She has not had a press conference. I think we're going on day 32. No real answers, no real policy. The one policy that she put up, and as I mentioned yesterday, I can't remember who the talking head was that said it, but if your opponent accuses you of being communist, maybe don't make your first real policy be price control. But that was her first real policy. So there are obviously questions about their policies, and you're not seeing it during the convention. But Trump rolled out a new plan to get tougher on crime. And you can not deny the fact that he was tough on crime in his first administration. This now includes pursuing the death penalty for child rapists, a return to stop and frisk strategies as well. Trump accused Harris of waging an anti-police crusade and supporting extremist, pro-crime, anti-police policies such as defund the police. And we know that she was raising money at one point for bail for some of these rioters and protesters at the time. We will never think about defunding the police, said Trump, as he was in Michigan. He was surrounded at that point by Michigan sheriffs, as a matter of fact. We'll refund the police. Trump blasted low arrest rates under President Biden and Harris, arguing that the current administration, quote, goes after guys like me, but they don't go after people that kill people. And there's a point to be had there. Probably the strongest DA action in New York City in a long time was the laser-like focus on the former president, the lawfare against their political opponent. And they bragged about it. And they are continuing to brag about it at the convention with chants of lock him up and calling him a felon. Again, celebrating in this lawfare, celebrating in weaponizing the judicial system against your political opponent. Trump said since Comrade Kamala took office, her own administration's crime statistics show she has presided over a 40% or 43% increase in violent crime, including a 58% increase in rape, 89% increase in aggravated assault, and a 56% increase in robbery. Major cities are almost all run by Democrats, Trump said. You can't walk across the street to get a loaf of bread. You get shot, you get mugged, you get raped, you get whatever it may be. Kamala Harris will deliver crime, chaos, destruction, and death. I will deliver law, order, safety, and peace, and I will protect those who protect us. Under my leadership, we will make a record investment in hiring, retention, and training for police officers. He says he supports the death penalty for child rapists, a return to stop and frisk policy, and felonies for doctors who perform transgender surgeries on minors without parental consent. So actually putting substance out there, which is, I think, quite different than what we've been seeing during the DNC. Now, did you watch DNC Night 2? What did you think of the Obama speeches? What did you think about any of the speeches? There is definitely, well, I would say when it comes to the actual speeches, I don't think you can use the term joy. I know they're saying that Kamala's brought joy back to the election. There's joy in the arena. They can use that as much as they want, but it's very much like inflation. It's very much like crime statistics. They'll say, no, it's actually really good. Don Lemon the other day while interviewing a Trump supporter in New Jersey, Deep Blue, New Jersey, as the person said, you know, inflation's killing me. I can't afford to do anything. Don Lemon said, well, no, actually, I have papers and numbers here that show you that it's not that bad. And I think all you'd have to say is the only piece of paper you need to show that it is bad is my receipt from my groceries, my savings account, my checking account. Those are numbers that will probably speak volumes more so than your manipulated statistics. But this is the same example. Hey, never mind what you're saying. It's all joy. Now, I will say in the arena, of course, there is enthusiasm. There's excitement from the Democratic supporters. They love, just like why they tune into the late night shows, they love to have the insults on Trump. They laugh. They have a grand old time laughing at Trump and his supporters. There's actually a piece here that I hope to get to a little bit later on that talks directly about that. But also, since we're on Trump and we're going to move forward, we definitely got to move forward. And I had some people reach out yesterday to see if this got my attention, and it did. RFK Jr. is considering dropping out to join forces with Trump. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is considering dropping out of the race to join forces with former President Trump. His, meaning RFK Jr.'s running mate, revealed Tuesday. Shortly after the revelation, Trump declared that he would be certainly open to giving Kennedy a post in his administration. There's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party. But we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Tim Walz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, said Nicole Shanahan, the independent candidate's vice presidential pick. The other option, we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and we explain to our base why we're making that decision. And it's not an easy decision to make, she said. If we are splitting hairs, I would say that I trust the future of our country more under the leadership of Trump and the Peter Thiels and the J.D. Vances than I do right now under Harris and the Reid Hoffmans, she said, referencing GOP megadonor Thiel and Democrat megadonor Hoffman, who are both venture capitalists. So that'll be an interesting. I don't think it completely changes the races as some the race, I should say, as some in the media have suggested, but it is. It would be a very important move to kind of solidify, because the third party could make a major difference. I know Jill Stein has been out, speaking of third parties, out giving speeches at the DNC, of course, outside of the convention itself. Speaking of outside of the convention itself, we're going to talk about the protests clashing. Yesterday, I see that some of the media are trying to downplay it. No, already fizzling out. Not as big a protest as we thought. Now, I was talking to someone yesterday, and it made me think, if there were these types of protests and this level of protest at the RNC, I believe there would have been a split screen the whole time during coverage. Here's the president giving his address, former president giving his address, here, whoever. And on the other side would have been the protesters clashing with police with their signs, burning American flags. That, not the case during the DNC. We have so much to talk about. We're just getting started. I've got a good feeling about this morning's show. I know you do as well. A couple quick things. Tomorrow on the program, we'll have a guest. Friday on the program, we're going to have a guest. We are going to be very busy. We've kind of moved things around. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about the DNC each day. So you'll have to tune in right at 6 o'clock because we do not have a lot of time to kill on the program. We're going to talk about Watkins Glen International Racetrack tomorrow. And on Friday, our good friend, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, will be joining us. So there you go. Stay with us. Our first break. And then we'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us.
Lease a brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Limited all-wheel drive featuring heated leather seats and power moonroof for only $379 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
Hesselson Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs, deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
We were weighing so much money. The Koala team made the whole process so easy, and we saw savings on our very first bill.
The inspection was really eye-opening. It's a great feeling knowing that we're truly energy efficient.
Now we're finally properly insulated.
Koala is a first-class company all the way.
It's time you discover Koala Insulation.
Hi, I'm Darren with Koala Insulation of Southern Tier. Give us a call. We are fully insured and we offer veteran and military discounts.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat,
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on historic Marcus Street in Corning. Here is a comment from a viewer tuning in this morning. After being up the night before, watching till the very end, I wasn't very productive yesterday. I started watching early last night, but didn't want the stress of all the Trump bashing. So happily, I watched Hogan's Heroes instead. Very appropriate, of course, a famous line from Hogan's Heroes, I know nothing. Sounded like some of the speeches last night. So very apropos. Thank you very much for that comment. Keep the comments coming in. Anti-Israel protesters did clash with police outside of Israel's Chicago consulate during the DNC, shouting Free Palestine, burning the American flag. I believe there were 4 arrests made. I want to say that's the number I heard. Make them feel what Gaza feels was one of the chants. Now, Michael Ruiz from Fox News says, as Democrat elites feast on Chicago's best food and drink, the attention to the party's 2024 presidential ticket of Harris and Walz is overshadowing the Windy City's persistent problems of violence and policy failures. That's according to a former city police chief. Gene Roy, the Chicago Police Department's former chief of detectives, said there's a lot of ironies associated with the DNC being held in the United Center. And J.D. Vance said something kind of similar to this on the stump yesterday. But just a few weeks ago, and a few blocks away, a 7-year-old named Jamani Riviera died despite responding officers' life-saving efforts after a stray bullet struck him outside his mother's home on Jackson Avenue. The 16-year-old suspect was moving about freely despite a violent history, Roy said. This is a sign of what's wrong in Chicago right now. The Juvenile Probation Department, which reports directly to the chief judge of the Cook County court system, was aware of the fact that the offender had broken the terms of his home confinement but took no action. And again, this hoopla is going on. The grand party is going on. The reality of life is 3 blocks away. He also talked about the window dressing designed to hide Chicago's problems while VIPs are in town in the convention. And we talked about this early last week, the removing of the homeless and illegal immigrants from the streets so the optics don't look bad during the convention. He said, I find the whole DNC convention here as an example of the elitists of the Democrat Party. The politicians are inside a heavily fortified building, almost like a castle. They're feasting on the best of food and liquor, while protected by hundreds of armed police officers and 2 separate fences. When I think about it, it reminds me of the king and his court, living the high life in a castle in Europe, protected by an army while a moat, the 2 separate parameters and fences, isolates the castle and the powerful from the reality of life outside. Well, I thought that was a good way of putting it. Anyway, he goes on to talk about the protesters and the like, comparing it to 1968. But speaking of the anti-Israel protesters, did you see, this again proves our point about late night TV, but Nancy Pelosi getting heckled during the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, protesters shouting "Free Palestine" during her live interview. So she tried to answer some questions on it, and the whole time Colbert had to plead, will you listen to her response? They like when it was Republicans being made to feel uncomfortable. Remember AOC and others telling protesters to do that. But now it doesn't work as well when the shoe's on the other foot. Now Pelosi said that Israel has a right to defend itself and the hostages should be returned. But then she suggested the two-state solution. You cannot have peace unless you have a two-state solution. Israel, a secure Jewish democratic state in the region, and the Palestinians having their own secure country there as well. There will not, unless we have that, we will not have a resolution to this. As people continue to shout, the talk show host said, please don't interrupt my guests. Madam Speaker, we're a live show, so we have to go at this point. Please come again, and we can continue this conversation. Boy, a lot of awkwardness surrounding Nancy Pelosi at a time when she helped oust Biden. Seems as if she has lost that friendship, though she tried to make good on it yesterday, holding a sign that "We love Joe" and chanting "We love Joe." By the way, Stephen Colbert picked on our governor. If you care, let me read the joke just so you can see how hilarious late night is. He made reference to Hochul's mistake. If you recall, I mentioned it yesterday. In her biggest speech, arguably, of her career, she gets up there and says, are you ready to elect Kamala Harris the first president of the United States? And Stephen Colbert's joke was, yes, the first president of the United States. Now it seems like that was a mistake, but it's like George Washington famously said, that little girl was me. Also, we learned that Hochul didn't pick up the phone when Biden called her to tell her he was dropping out. That's really strange. Hochul was traveling in New York's rural North Country region, according to this piece by Politico, when she said, I was really sad I couldn't pick up the phone at that critical point in their lives. I wonder what she was so busy doing. It seems like no matter what you're doing, you could take a call from the president, even if it's not a call that is of that type of significance. But again, we move away. We're going on some side tangents this morning. That's what makes the show so much fun. One last thing about Biden, since we're talking about it, though, before I take a break. A top Harris official yesterday was kind of grilled on why Biden's speech started so late. Was it on purpose? Was this the final insult to Joe Biden? Was that a mistake? What happened? Kristen Welker from NBC questioned Quentin Folks. Well, I don't think it was a mistake. Look, I think that the team here on the ground in Chicago had worked tirelessly to put this convention together. It was night one, and I think anytime you're bringing an event like this and building something with this many people, there are bound to be some things that go a little awry. He said that the team has taken that back and said night two's programming would be flawless. What does that mean? Will there be adjustments, Welker asked, because obviously we know a couple of speeches got cut. Last night, a video, at least one got cut. Did you have to make adjustments for night two? I really don't think it's a big deal, he said. Unfortunately, some people had to be cut, but I think tonight again, we're seeing some flawless programming. Welker also asked Folks about a comment from a Biden aide who said it was completely disrespectful. This is awful, a longtime Biden aide texted Axios. He literally set up a campaign and handed it over to them. Do they have to cut him out of primetime? Well, Folks said, I hate to acknowledge things like that. I don't think anybody was making an attempt to cut the president out. I think that we saw in the room last night here in Chicago during the convention was nothing but love and respect for President Biden. Now, they were ridiculed for originally stating that it ran late because of the raucous applause interrupting speaker after speaker. We ultimately skipped elements of our programming to ensure we could get to President Biden as quickly as possible. Even CNN, a panel that they were having, were laughing at that complete political spin. Oh, it's just too much clapping, too much enthusiasm. We ran late. Many people do believe it was on purpose to bump Biden. There's actually a really good piece on that because it highlights for many that would be watching, if he were during prime time, that wait a minute, there was this cover-up for this long. There was this cover-up to keep from the American people the cognitive decline of the president's secret. And Harris, as the polls show, is part of that cover-up. So they did not want to see, they did not want the American people to see, just like they haven't for the last 3.5 years, that they had been covering this up. And if I can find that, I'll bring that up when we come back. But then we've got to get really into the nitty-gritty of what was said last night. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Brighten your smile this summer with Watkins Glen and Elmira Family Dentistry. With their summer teeth whitening special, you'll have a beautiful whitened smile without all the gimmicks and hundreds of wasted dollars. Their licensed dental professionals will apply the product for you in one of their beautiful and relaxing offices. Their materials are made in the USA and are prescription strength to provide an unbelievable result. Give them a call now to schedule your appointment.
Enjoy at Finger Lakes at Hector Hideaway.
With a lunch and dinner menu, we serve a variety of delicious dishes made with locally sourced ingredients. Dine inside or out on the deck for gorgeous lake views and pair your meal with a local wine, beer, or beverage. We're open until 9 p.m. Thursday through Monday, but the bar is open until midnight Fridays and Saturdays. Stay tuned for live music. Visit us today at Hector Hideaway.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel. With Japanese-grade steel blades, plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss now.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm getting all my paperwork together. Back to this issue of the cognitive decline of Biden, and I want to move on. There's just 2 updates on this that I think's worth noting. After the party, as some have said, pushed a coup d'etat, and got Biden out of the re-election campaign, and then the insult to injury. Last slap in the face was booting him from primetime. Before that, a couple comments from viewers. Thank you to the viewer telling me about Hogan's Heroes. I am very familiar with Hogan's Heroes. MeTV, our sister station, I don't think there's a program on there that I'm not very familiar with. But yes, it is a very fun show. So thank you for the call, and thank you for enjoying the program. And listen to this. You are America's Walter Cronkite of today. Thank you. Hey, that's very nice of you to say. Thank you very much. But yes, very, very familiar with the outstanding, the stellar lineup on our sister station, MeTV, and those classics. Another comment from a viewer. I figured it much better to not waste my time watching last night and just watch the friendly news today, talk about it, recap it. Sounds like a good idea for some people's mental health. I would agree. Non-woke-minded friendly news sources, like on your show, Frankly Speaking. Well, thank you very much for nice comments. Oh, and here's a couple waves. Thank you very much. So the Washington Post editorial board has admitted that Biden's, quote, inner circle worked to conceal his decline. I think They lie to you, folks, because it's not just the inner circle. They are trying to distance themselves as much as possible in the media, because they were very much a part of what could be the biggest scandal in presidential history of this hiding of his mental decline, because they were fully aware, but they called you a crackpot if you tried to bring it up, or called you really inappropriate, conspiratorial, if you questioned what you were seeing with your own eyes, just like with inflation and just like with crime and public safety. The Washington Post editorial board admitted President Biden's inner circle worked to conceal his decline. Critics of Biden had long suggested he wasn't mentally fit to serve another term, but he sought re-election until Democrat leaders effectively forced him to step aside. But keep in mind that he would still be nominated this week if the poll numbers were better for him. If he never did that debate, he would still be the nominee. So it was never about his mental health. It was never about the safety of the country, the security of the country. It's 100% at the end of the day about electability. Now, the piece itself from the Washington Post pretty much fawned over Biden the whole time, was praising Biden the whole time, talking about his willingness to surrender power. It deserves special recognition. But four paragraphs into the piece, they said the 81-year-old had shown signs of slipping for a long time, but his inner circle worked to conceal his decline. What? Well, wait a minute. They might have been concealing it, but wouldn't the media have a very powerful position in this to talk about the mental decline? Hey, more waves. Wouldn't that be their duty as well? Also, I would wonder, when you think inner circle, who's a part of his inner circle? Would that also be the now nominee, Harris? Worth mentioning. Right? Just something to keep in mind as they try to do the same exact thing as they, for 3.5 years, and I mean the media, as they concealed Biden's mental decline, they are going to use those same tactics to protect Kamala Harris for the next 2.5 months. That's why they're not outraged that she hasn't given a press conference, and I think we're going on 32 days now. They're not drawing any attention to what was her role in this cover-up of Biden's mental health. They're not bringing up any of the issues with her policy, the price gouging policy. They're also not bringing up any of the concerns about her policies in general, that there are none, essentially. They are going to protect and shield her for the next 2.5 months because they're good at that. And they want to see her ultimately win. And let's face it, 2.5 months is not very long or not very difficult to not report on her, to not talk about perhaps her past policy positions. And wait till you see how Pete Buttigieg spun that last night. We've heard the media called a U-turn in a very positive way, but we'll get to that in a moment. I don't want to keep saying I'm going to mention something and then not get to it. But they are going to do everything they can. Again, they're not even mentioning the fact that she never received a vote to be where she is today. That is of no concern to them. That the media, or excuse me, the Democrat Party, Freudian slip, that the Democrat Party had absolutely no say in who their nominee was going to be, because again, the only person in that room that received a vote to run this year as president of the United States on the Democrat ticket was booted out of prime time on Monday night, and that was Joe Biden. Michael Goodwin said, "It's time to put to bed the debate over whether it was intentional or incompetence that forced Joe Biden's convention speech so late into the night. All the evidence points to intent. Organizers scheduled too many speakers and knew what they were going to say because it was all loaded on the teleprompters. No matter their lame defenses, they had to assume there would be time spent on applause and transition. So Biden's finishing well after midnight on the East Coast could not be a surprise to them. Then again, who can fault the organizers for wanting to hide him? Biden is well past his prime, as you saw with the angry shouting that so many people referenced yesterday, and the constant asides of, I'm not joking, and that's not hyperbole. Put it this way. If it was your job to convince America the party can be trusted to find a new leader who is ready to guide the nation for 4 more years, would you want Biden's dreary performance to be seen by as many as 40 million viewers? Even worse, would you want to take a chance that the same Joe who delivered the June debate debacle would show up and destroy the fiction that he and the party are even modestly competent and honest? You'd be crazy to not fear that his stumbles, mumbles, and brain freezes would remind the nation that Democrats put a dangerously declining figure into the White House and tried to hide him from the public. And I would also add, we're ready and willing to run him for another 4 years. Biden would be accepting his party's renomination this week instead of saying goodbye had he put on even a halfway decent debate performance against Trump. So it's clear. The star of the Thank You Joe Biden evening was purposely put out to pasture in the wee hours precisely because most people would be asleep before he finished. Seen that way, the scam reveals a larger point, namely that the Chicago convention is running as fast as it can because the party's hopes for November are built on 3 big lies. Again, this is from Michael Goodwin, and we're going to get to those 3 lies when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
It's the Chevrolet Summer Drive Sales Event and Blaze Alexander Chevrolet Buick GMC of Mansfield. The brand new Traverse is here. We have 5 in stock and they're ready to roll. Plus, we have the all-new Equinox EV on the lot. We're offering discounts and rebates as much as $11,000 on new Silverado 1500s and up to $6,000 on Silverado 2500 and 3500s. Get rates as low as 1.9% on much of the new Chevy lineup. Stop and shop or check us out at BlazeChevyMansfield.com because we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
Attention twin-tier homeowners. Are you tired of paying too much for your energy bills? It's time you discover Koala Insulation of the Southern Tier, a premier insulation contractor. The professionals at Koala Insulation can give you a free, no-obligation insulation evaluation. It's one of the best home improvement investments you can make. Give us a call at 607-463-0616.
Discover Koala Insulation of Southern Tier. We are fully insured. Visit koalainsulation.com and find us near you.
Now there's a product that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it for you. Introducing the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your ingredients and walking away and coming back to meals that cook up to 60% faster. No more stirring food. StirMax technology automatically rotates the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise, so it stirs it for you. Powerful enough to even shred food. Then the 7.5 quart pot goes right to the table to serve. With a premium ceramic coating, nothing sticks. And it's dishwasher safe. Now you can try the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. You also get the steamer and rice basket for healthy meals, StirMax serving spoon that snaps in place for easy serving, and $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order all absolutely free. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order now.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking. We have so many comments to get to as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Before I get to your comments, let me just wrap this up with Michael Goodwin because I hate to stop midstream here. So this is the 3 lies, according to Michael Goodwin, that we're seeing at the DNC. 1, that Biden is still fine, that he's good enough to remain in the Oval Office for 5 more months. He's running out the clock with extended stays at his beach house, which is an open invitation for our adversaries to make trouble. One outrageous example came Monday when, among other distortions, he said that anti-Israel protesters in the streets of Chicago, quote, have a point. No, they don't have a legitimate point because Israel has every right to finish off the terror organizations that killed so many in that bloody attack on October 7th. For Biden to say otherwise encourages the protesters, lets Iran off the hook, and gives Hamas no reason to agree to a ceasefire deal. All right, lie number 2. Is that Biden has been a great president whose tenure is splashed with historic accomplishments. It's not a plausible assessment to see him as a success by any definition. If he was good if he was great or even good, why did the public so thoroughly reject his policies? Why do 65% of voters say the country is on the wrong track? And I'm not going to go through each of those numbers. It gets a little wonky. And then number 3, According to Michael Goodwin, lie number 3, Kamala Harris is competent enough to replace him as a president. This gets into one of the comments that we had during the break. If that's true, she did an excellent job of hiding her talent for the last 3.5 years. Beyond the word salads, odd giggles, and the exit of dozens of aides, complete with horror stories of her brutal management style and refusal to prepare for public appearances, she was part of every major administration decision and policy, meaning all those failures are her burden too. Yet here she is, heir to a fortune in party delegates, handed her by a process that would make the old bosses of Tammany Hall blush. What a great point. She is so unprepared for the promotion that the game of Hyden Biden is being replaced by Hyden Harris. Imagine a major party nominee refusing to hold a single press conference or even sit for a serious interview. There is no precedent in modern times, but neither she nor her aides even bother to concoct lies about why. They know she would be exposed if the big media outlets even pretended to do their jobs. Instead, the Washington press corps are happy to let her skate by because they share her objective, keep Trump out of the White House. Yes, and they know how to do it successfully, meaning hide her, because they did it with Biden for 3.5 years. To that end, it was shameless the way Biden, Hillary Clinton, and other convention speakers hailed the fact that Trump had been indicted in 4 cases and convicted in 1. It's a fact, but only because Democrats weaponize law enforcement and much of the judicial system, especially in New York, to carry out political aims. Each of the cases is infected by politics, yet party leaders celebrate them as if they are legitimate. And you had the chance of lock him up. And when those lock him up chants started, it removed any doubt. The whole thing was a political dirty trick. Although the unprecedented rigging of the game is clear, it can be no consolation to Trump. Now it says here, because she picked Tim Walz, he was a bad choice and it was made for the wrong reason, to avoid having to pick Pennsylvania's Jewish governor Josh Shapiro. That would have inflamed the anti-Semitic mobs Harris is shamefully trying to court. So far, she hasn't paid a price among sensible voters for any of her missteps. One of Trump's biggest challenges to make sure she does. Yeah, it's going to be tough to get that message out. I thought that was a really good piece by Michael Goodwin. Okay, let's go to viewer comments. Here we go. First off, good morning, Frank. Good morning. Barack Obama gave a very dividing, rambling speech. After last night, Barack and Michelle will never be seen again helping Kamala and Tim. I find it interesting with, well, first of all, that Michelle Obama never mentioned Joe Biden. Thought that was very interesting. I also thought it's interesting and kind of par for the course, something we're used to at this point, that Barack Obama railed against Trump for about a half an hour and then said, hey, we have to unify as a country. All right, next up. I'm thinking that they covered up Biden's decline because they didn't want Harris to take the helm. In other words, they knew she was not capable of taking over the presidency. I agree. That was the whole reason they fought tooth and nail at the beginning, and up until recently, really, up until the debate, to keep him in there and to hide his mental decline, because they believed, and I think rightfully so at the end of the day, that Harris is not a good campaigner. She does very poorly speaking off the cuff. Yes, we know Thursday's speech by Harris is going to be the most historic, probably the most profound, amazing speech ever given. But once we start to get to the debates and see her on the campaign trail, if she ever answers questions from the media, you'll see the Harris that they were scared of. And it was reported at the time that Obama did not want Michelle. One of the reasons why, Obama did not want Kamala Harris, or Michelle did not want Kamala Harris to be the candidate. They wanted Mark Kelly. So there's a lot of moving pieces there. The same with why Harris was not at the convention yesterday, out of respect for Biden, because Biden feels that the Obamas did him dirty. We're going to talk about that and much more. Ken watched it last night, and he put together what he believes are the takeaways, much better than any of the takeaways from the CNNs of the world. So let's look at his, as I do have time. Good. All right. Frank, we watched the DNC again until the end. Well, actually, I did. My wife nodded off before midnight. She always was a smart one. Yes. Much more of the same. Most of the same lies that were recanted on Monday. That were, I think, recounted. Yes, lies over and over. even CNN fact-checking at this point, but we'll continue. I couldn't help but think what a good actor Bernie Sanders must be, praising Biden and Kamala while knowing he was forced to step away from what could have been his presidency in 2020. Maybe he will be rewarded with another house. He has 3. Yes, an avowed socialist has 3 beautiful homes. And to your point, Ken, if I could add to it, not just 2020, 2016. The fix was in from the beginning, especially with the super delegates. He was never going to be the nominee. You remember the rallies that he used to hold? Very comparable to Trump's at the time. He had that popularity amongst Democrats that Hillary Clinton did not. But the fix was in to the point where Donna Brazile fed, while she worked at CNN, mind you, fed the questions for their debate, meaning Hillary and Bernie, fed the questions to Hillary Clinton beforehand. So, and because of that loyalty, she ended up being the chairwoman of the Democratic Party for quite some time. But anyway, so the fix was in back in 2016. So Bernie, for being a revolutionary, a socialist revolutionary, really caves in very easy, doesn't he? He ends up endorsing Hillary after they robbed it from him in 2016. And I've always told my friends that were Bernie supporters, I would be curious to see how that race shaped up if it would have been Bernie Trump. I still think Trump would have won, but I can't say unequivocally that that would be the case. I can't say that I'm positive of that. But anyway, not on that tangent. Then in 2020, same thing. He gets forced out and then hat in hand endorses Biden. So yeah, Bernie's a good soldier. Not a real revolutionary soldier, but a really good soldier. Plays the way that his party wants him to play. Next up, this is still from Ken. The Obama speeches were nothing special. A lot of talking about themselves and their struggles, mixed in with praising Kamala. Yes, and not a lot about Biden when it comes to Michelle. None when it comes to Michelle. Continuing. Interesting that Kamala wasn't there and won't be again tonight. Yes, very interesting. A little bit of soap opera there. A lot of proposed money giveaways to buy votes. Yes, of course. And finally, the DNC could have saved a lot of money if they just played the following on a continuous loop for 6 hours. Kamala good, Trump bad. Kamala good, Trump bad. Thank you, Ken. We appreciate your takeaways from last night's DNC. Much better than the takeaways from CNN and other media outlets that try to put together what they thought were the most impactful nights in the moment. And by golly, it always turns out that it was just a wonderful night for the Democrats, doesn't it? So thank you, Ken, and thank you to all the viewers. Keep them coming in. We've got to take a short break. We're running just a little bit late, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hustleton's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hustleton's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs, deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hustleton's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hustleton's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustleton's.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes, spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, mildew, mold, and more. Take it in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud, or outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. Get your Ruby Horsepower with 4 additional attachments, all for just $39.99. Great news! They're in stock and ready to ship. Due to high demand, only 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-2344. That's 1-800-980-2344, or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-980-2344.
And we are back. Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. No Steuben Senior Services Fund interview this morning, but it will return tomorrow as we'll be talking with Don Berlew from Watkins Glen International. And then on Friday, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. And with both guests, we'll have plenty of time to talk about DNC Day 3 in DNC Day 4. There's a piece we're not going to get to, but worth mentioning at the New York Post. Inside the Democratic Party's plan to recruit 5,000 influencers. Now, if you're not familiar with social media, these influencers, there's a lot of them. I'm not familiar with many of them, but they want to go kind of the pop culture route, which they're very good at, and they're very effective with. And they're taking selfies at the DNC and trying to make, and this is a quote, trying to make Kamala cool. You can find this piece. It's going to be a lot of names I don't know, so it's probably not worth me going through it, but you can find it at the New York Post. Why did they do the fake delegate vote yesterday that took forever? By the way, it was unnecessary. We know that she was actually given the vote back on August the 5th. So to go through that rigmarole, anyway, I guess maybe a part of the pomp and circumstances. So we had Ken's astute takeaways from last night. Let's look at what CNN had to say on the other side of the coin of what they believed were the most powerful parts of DNC Day 2. Kids with funny names. This convention has always been pretty good to kids with funny names who believe in a country where anything is possible, Obama said. And then the chance of, yes, we can. If that's your biggest takeaway, okay. Barack Obama's family story. So I guess yesterday was all about Barack Obama. Next up, hope makes a comeback. That's what Michelle Obama said. My girl Kamala Harris is more than ready for this moment. She's one of the most qualified people ever to seek the office of the presidency, and she is one of the most dignified. Why is it that every time there's a candidate, they're always the most qualified? One of the most qualified. Okay. The key role Michelle Obama played Tuesday was to urge the audience to keep their eyes on the prize. She told Democrats to avoid the foolishness of waiting to be asked to act and make a personal appeal for everyone to do something between now and Election Day. Emhoff, the second gentleman, sought to show America a personal side of his wife, telling stories about how they met and how she became Mamala to his two children. That's a common thing. Anyway, then they have, and I knew they would love this. I'd love to know your opinion. Do you believe that this was effective or not? Which is GOP speakers show up for Harris. Yes, there's always that wing of the Republican Party that loves to talk bad about their own party so that they can get the media attention and the national attention. And we saw plenty of that yesterday. Mayor John Giles of Mesa, Arizona, who declared himself a lifelong Republican, said this, quote, I have an urgent message for the majority of Americans who, like me, are in the political middle. John McCain's Republican Party is gone, and we don't own a darn thing, or we don't owe a darn thing to what's been left behind. So let's turn the page. Let's put country first. I'm going to say something that may not be popular, but isn't it a good thing that John McCain's Republican Party is gone? Is that the John McCain Republican Party that lost the presidency? I'm confused. Exactly what he's speaking of. Is he talking about the maverick John McCain, who would, like this gentleman, would go against his party, insult his party for the attention and the support from the media, but then and be praised as a maverick by that same media until he became the Republican nominee? And what was it, about a week in being the nominee, they tried to suggest to the media that he cheated on his wife, that he was the worst human being. That's the kind of loyalty the media has for a good Republican like John McCain. So a good Republican to Mr., or I should say Mayor Giles, whose area in Mesa, Arizona is suffering because of the policies of Biden and Harris and the open borders. He wants to see a return to John McCain's Republican Party, the party that loses presidential elections. That's one of those good, self-described, lifelong Republicans. I love people like that. Oh, I've been registered Republican my whole life. Vote for Democrats every single time, but I'm a real Republican, and let me lecture you on who you should vote for and what you should do. Anyway, I don't want to get on that tangent. Next, this is not a radical agenda, said the radical Bernie Sanders. Let's be clear, this is not a radical agenda. But let me tell you what a radical agenda is, and that is Trump's Project 2025. So what is the radical agenda? I mean, we don't have any real clear policies other than the price fixing that Harris has proposed. And then finally, the last takeaway from CNN before we take our last break. Democrats interrupted the party's convention Tuesday night to throw a party. And that was the roll call, which was just for show. It wasn't necessary. And they just danced and partied. All right. I guess those were the most powerful takeaways, according to CNN. Keep those waves coming in. We got to take our last break of hour number 1. I feel like we're just getting started. We have so much to cover. Don't go anywhere.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
I'm Marianne Kirk. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Yes, just looking at these quotes from Republicans, quote-unquote Republicans, that are now stumping for Harris. Stephanie Grissom suggesting that Trump insulted his own supporters behind closed doors, calling them basement dwellers. This is so... Yeah, anyway. Adam Kissinger, who's always been very outspoken in his hatred of Trump, and that's why he gets so much attention, because he's not even a representative any longer. He lost because of his stance. But again, these people, much like when the gentleman mentioned John McCain, they like getting the media attention, getting invited to the cocktail hours that they want to go to. There's something to be said about some politicians who, I don't know what it was. Chris Christie is very much like this, who maybe in their childhood were very popular, maybe something. Well, now they want to be liked by the quote-unquote cool kids. So they'll say anything and do anything to get that media attention and the celebrity attention. And that's what we see with a Kissinger and John Giles and some of these others. It's typical of the Republican Party. There's always quite a few that do this, not in the Democrat Party. If you come out and say, I don't think Harris would be a good candidate, I don't think she's going to be a good president, that would be the end of your political career. Look at Cory Booker, whose name's not mentioned like it used to be. Cory Booker was seen as a star, a rising star, maybe a presidential candidate. And he said something about Obama. I think it was about Obamacare, suggesting it wasn't working as smoothly as they wanted. He came back out. You couldn't have ran faster to a microphone after the night was over, after the calls he received, and said, no, I misspoke. This is typical of Republicans. Nothing to get worked up over, because the John McCain Republican Party is dead. The John McCain Republican Party that was really good, really, really good at losing presidential races. We point to Mitt Romney, John McCain, all these moderates that work so well with the other side that we were told is the only way we could win. Another example is Jeb Bush. They told us that at the time as well. All right, this hour is through. Oh, hey, I got this comment from a viewer. I'm sorry. I went on a side note here. They went through the motions. This is to do the whole delegate vote. They went through the motions live to make it look legitimate to the supporters. Like there was some sort of vote. I agree. Because really this was done virtually already, but the voters didn't get to see this. So what they're trying to do is, hey, never mind that Kamala Harris has never received a single vote to be the presidential nominee for the Democrat Party in her life. Never mind that. Look how official this is. That's a very good point. Thank you. They're very astute. Like all of our viewers, very astute viewers. We are really lucky with all the great commentary. Like I said yesterday, you're the real commentators. You're the real pundits. the real analysts, not some of the stuff we see on TV, which is laughable. The praising and the fawning over the Obamas. We're going to see it with Harris on Thursday as well. But enough about this rambling. Hour number 1 is in the books. It is hard to believe, but we've got hour number 2 coming up in mere moments. Please stay with us. We'll read some other comments. I got a couple quick announcements to make. More on the DNC. Night 2. We'll also talk a little bit here if we get a chance about the Trump campaign, the Harris campaign in general, and a few other quick things. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
When it comes to pizza, subs, wings, strombolis, and calzones, nobody does it better than Picnic Pizza. Picnic Pizza has been serving the Twin Tiers for over 40 years. With 2 convenient locations to serve you, Horseheads and Big Spots, you can dine in, carry out, or we'll deliver in a 5-mile radius. We offer everyday in-house specials like a family pack, 1 large pizza, 1 dozen wings, and 1 quart of soda. Having a party? How about a party pack? 1 sheet pizza, 2 dozen wings, and 2 quarts of soda. Picnic Pizza, the best darn pizza in the area.
Oh, better tasting is better for the planet?
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Hour number 2. Welcome. You're watching Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Aiden, as we broadcast live from the DNC. Comment from a viewer. I wonder how much of a bribe was given to the, we'll just say, to that mayor. We'll just say to that mayor. I'll skip the adjective. For him to badmouth his own party. The only bribe that he was given, that's what makes, in politics, they talk about the term useful idiot a lot. That's what makes it so frustrating, because it's not a bribe. It's not a cash bribe where you say it's wrong, but maybe it's more understandable. It is the bribe of them begging to badmouth their party so they can be liked by the cool kids, so they can be popular, which is maybe something they've never seen before in their earlier years. We've seen it time and time again in the Republican Party. They love the attention, the media attention specifically. They like to go to those cocktail parties. They like to go to the after parties at the DNC. And boy, you did a great job hammering on Trump. And yeah, pat on the back. Yeah. It's something as Republicans I think we all get used to over time, that there'll always be the Chris Christies of the world. Okay. Chuck Schumer outlines the 2025 agenda at the DNC last night, eyeing sweeping changes and eyeing filibuster changes. I always like their policy positions are, we want to come up with new rules that benefit us so we can continue to win. It's not what's best for the American people. It's about us. Now, Bernie Sanders calls for an end to the horrific war in Gaza and guaranteed health care, to wild applause at the DNC. Okay. The coddling of these anti-Israel protesters is just, well, again, I know I bring it up a lot, but Van Jones saying that the Democrat Party is now marbled with anti-Semitism bigotry, anti-Semitic bigotry. So now they are catering to that vote, as Michael Goodwin said in that piece earlier that I mentioned, catering to that anti-Israel protester vote. I think it's really interesting that right after Bernie Sanders rails against the rich, and by the way, going back to our point with Bernie Sanders that the one viewer made, Ken, I think it was Ken that made. Bernie Sanders has been used by this party, some revolutionary. He has been used by this party, always been a good soldier, says, well, I know the fix was in back in 2016 and I could never beat Hillary, but well, I'll endorse Hillary. Oh, the fix was in 2020 and I wasn't going to win. Oh, well, I'll endorse Biden. Well, you know what it gets them? It gets them a primetime talking or primetime speech opportunity at the DNC to rail against the rich. And right after, think of this visualization, right after he rails against the rich and receives thunderous applause, Governor J.B. Pritzker boasts about his wealth and that he's an actual billionaire and also gets thunderous applause. So which is it? What are you looking for as a party? He awkwardly boasted about being an actual billionaire following Socialist Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders' rant against the ultra wealthy. They should have worked on their speeches together. Donald Trump thinks that we should trust him on the economy because he claims to be very rich. But take it from an actual billionaire. Trump is rich in only one thing: stupidity. These people think they're so clever and so funny. It is really... Well, hey, he's currently sits at $3.5 billion, making him the richest politician in office. All right. So just like big money deciding this race by helping to oust Biden and then giving the momentum to Harris right out the gate, they also make up the party's elites. Now, the Illinois governor's family, I should mention, owns the Hyatt hotel chain, as his cousin Thomas Pritzker serves as the chief executive officer of Hyatt Hotels Corporation. So an heir to the hotel chain's fortune, Pritzker was elected to the governor's office in 2018. So getting rich, being an heir, bragging about that richness right after Bernie Sanders receives thunderous applause for attacking the rich. Interesting. Okay. Now, I mentioned this. Did you see what Pete Buttigieg had to say on NPR's Morning Edition? Now, he's going to be giving a speech, and we're going to get back to the DNC, but he's going to be giving a speech, if he hasn't already. I don't think he has. And they were asking him, you know, there's been a lot of flip-flopping, and Trump has talked about it, a lot of flip-flopping by Harris. You know, she was very much for defund the police, obviously open borders. Now she says she's going to be tougher on open borders. For its government spending, so many examples that we can show where she has now tried to change her policy because she's running for president and she realizes that her extreme policy is not popular with the American voter. So when they asked how Kamala Harris abandoned multiple positions from her previous presidential run, like her support for Medicare for all and a ban on fracking, this is what, let me give it right from the beginning. Here's something that I think Harris has not directly addressed. She has changed some of her positions since she ran for president in 2020, or leading up to 2020. She was for Medicare for all, isn't anymore. She was against fracking, is now in favor of it. As someone who has worked with Vice President Harris, how do you think about her change or evolution, if that's the word? So that's Steve Inskeep from NPR asking Pete Buttigieg. Now, keep in mind, it's only evolution if it's a Democrat. Because no, it isn't evolution. Has she completely changed? No. Her positions stay the same. It's just that she needs the vote. So this is how Buttigieg talks and reacts. Almost combine those two words about these flip-flopping policy changes. Well, I think your time in government and just the evolution. So see, yes, that's why he corrected himself. The co-host of the show, they were told. There's no doubt that you use the term evolution. You don't say change or flip-flop. So back to Pete Buttigieg. Well, I think your time in government and just the evolution of the situation around you means it makes sense to continue developing your policies. I don't think any of us locks in amber or freezes what we would have said or thought years earlier, especially given how much change and dynamism, I'm going to struggle with that, there is, not just in the administration, but just in the world around us right now. But she's very clear about her plans, clear about what she'll do. Really? And this isn't just theoretical, because she has been such a key leader in the Biden-Harris administration, delivering a very clear, and I would argue very consistent, policy approach, which has not been successful, as we know. She hasn't been clear about what she'll do. She has not been outspoken. She hasn't given a press conference in over 31 days. But now it's an evolution, and things around you, a lot changes in the world. So she evolved. Interesting. Now, last night, second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, gave a speech talking about Kamala Harris. And also, and this was the big takeaway, and again, just emulating everything that Biden did back in 2020, hiding from the press, the basement strategy, and now making sure to point towards her empathy. Her empathy is her strength, he said. Now, it doesn't sound like there was a lot of empathy for her staff when they talked about her brutal management style. And what was it, 91% of her staff had changed throughout the years while being vice president. Doesn't sound like there was a lot of empathy there. But I'll continue with other takeaways from yesterday and just in general. Now, this I have been highlighting all morning, but I wanted to highlight the specifics of it. Harris held an event 90 miles away from the DNC in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on the night the party's two most popular figures, Barack and Michelle Obama, campaigned on her behalf. A source familiar with DNC planning tells Fox News that the choice was made out of sensitivity and respect to Joe Biden. Quote, Obamas are still not on the White House's good side. It would not be helpful to their relationships. Fox is told this plan came together to avoid the optics of Harris, still serving as Biden's vice president, appearing alongside one of the figures he views as responsible for driving the end of his reelection bid. At the very convention, which was supposed to be his only weeks ago, that source familiar with the planning said, quote, we are in tricky territory. Yeah, the administration, Biden does have a right to be angry, not just for being ousted from re-election, because he, again, was the only person in that room to get votes to be the presidential nominee for the Democrat Party in the year 2024. And yet he was kicked out of primetime in that one last great final insult. Then have the people that ousted him praise him, fake praise him. He has a right to be angry. And if that's the reason why Harris wasn't there while Michelle and Barack spoke, I guess I can't blame her because she was handed a pretty cushy deal here. Why would she upset the person that gave it to her? Now, Obama did laud brother Biden at DNC weeks after it was reported his role in ousting him for Kamala Harris. So many people believe he ousted him, but not wanting Kamala Harris. We'll talk about that when we come back. We've got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
For summer and save at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines. Svedka Vodka, normally $20.99, is on sale for $18.99. Save up to $24 on a case with mail-in rebate. Your final cost, $12.99 per bottle. 1.5-liter Woodbridge wine, regularly $11.99, is on sale for $9.99. Save with a rebate of up to $24 on a case. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines and Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel
better. My back feels better. It makes me feel stronger, too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper Quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street. Before we get to viewer comments, we've got a lot of them. Thank you. Can't keep before we get to those comments, I want to mention this, and I haven't promoted it yet, and it's coming right up. And I'm begging you to mark your calendars for this very, very special event. I talk about the Salvation Army of Corning. They're holding a celebration of their 141 years in Corning. And that is coming up on September the 8th at the Nazar Civic Center right here in Corning. Now, the event... Okay, sorry, folks. I understand we had the music running loud again. So I apologize. So let me go step back. This is a very special event coming up here in Corning, where it's the Salvation Army celebrating 140 years in Corning. And as you've heard me say time and time again, it was a tough year for the Kettles, tough year for fundraising because of the economy. And the Salvation Army, though they are still doing all the good that they always do for our community, they are having issues when it comes to funding. So we're asking you to be a part of this huge celebration with a lot of fun events, silent auction, things like that. Also get a great meal from Corning Catering. It's just $15 per person, and it goes to help such an amazing cause. If you have any questions, you want tickets, I can meet up with you. You can get them at our friends at Brown Cigar Store. You can go over the Salvation Army right here on Denison Parkway, buy some tickets for you and your family. There's going to be music that day, fun games for the kids. And it's just $15 a ticket, and it's a picnic, barbecue picnic. You'll have great food from Billy Spalding and Corning Catering. So please be a part of it. I'm proud, and I've talked about this numerous times. I'm proud of the work the Salvation Army of Corning does. I'm proud to be the chairman of the advisory board, and I'm looking forward to the event. And I know that you will have a blast. And that $15 goes a long way because of the shortness of the kettle campaign that we did not raise as much as we normally do. It does not affect the work that they do. I can't stress that enough. They are still doing all the great work for our community, but there is tremendous need. So please help out the Salvation Army. Stop over at Brown Cigar Store. Contact me. I can meet you here some certain time and get you the ticket, whatever the case may be. We want to sell as many as we possibly can and do great work for an organization that does such great work for us as a community, because this show's all about community. All right, comments from viewers. Here we go. Frank, I'm glad you mentioned John Giles. That was the mayor, the Republican that insults fellow Republicans. I forgot to include him in my comments. His speech about the Republican Party tells us the difference between the Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans listen and will probably try to reach out and try to appease him. You're right, Ken. If he did that to Democrats, they would have started the process to silence and drum him out of the party. You're exactly right. He just will get supported by Democrats. He'll be on media outlets all over the place, like Kissinger, like Liz Cheney. Remember what they said about Liz Cheney's father. And she doesn't mind going to those same outlets to badmouth Trump and get the pat on the back. And look at what they did to John McCain, the ultimate maverick, the one that John Giles says we're not the party of anymore. The Republicans are not the party of John McCain anymore. Yeah, the John McCain party that lost presidential elections. Okay. But yes, Ken, you are spot on. Next up, Different comment, different viewer. If they're railing against the rich, aren't they kind of railing against themselves these days? Yes. What do they think that is not rich? 3 houses or less? Yes. Bernie Sanders, avowed socialist. 3 houses. Also, the irony again of railing against the rich by Bernie Sanders. Well, he does have 3 houses. And then Pritzker getting up there and saying, I'm a billionaire. Anyway, another comment. My spidey sense tells me we're in for some more drama. It sounds like there's a lot of underlying tension inside the DNC. There really does, with the who ousted Biden. Wait a minute. Was this on purpose that Biden was pushed towards after prime time? A lot of soap opera stuff going on here. Thank you for the waves, by the way. But Obama, just like Nancy Pelosi, no, we're brothers. That's how close we are. Other than some common Irish blood, Joe and I come from different backgrounds, but we became brothers. And as we worked together for 8, sometimes pretty tough years, what I came to admire most about Joe wasn't just his smarts and experience, but was his empathy and his decency and his hard-earned resiliency and his unshakable belief that everyone in this country deserves a fair shot. History will remember Joe Biden as an outstanding president who defended democracy in a moment of great danger. And I'm proud to call him my president, but even prouder to call him my friend. Kind of canned lines there. I don't know. A lot of people are not happy with how this all went down. That turning on, I mean, it was Obama. It was people close to Obama like Axelrod and others calling for Biden to step down. I don't know. Barack Obama pays tribute to Biden just weeks after burying him as Michelle Obama snubs the president. Just weeks after playing a leading role in a behind-the-scenes pressure campaign to bury the president's re-election bid, Obama gushed, at a time when the other party had turned into a cult of personality, we needed a leader who was steady and brought people together and was selfless enough to do the rarest thing there is in politics, putting his own ambition aside for the sake of the country. History will remember Joe Biden as an outstanding president who defended democracy in a moment of great danger. And I'm proud to call him my president, but I'm even prouder to call him my friend. I don't want to get into the back and forth with quotes. But yeah, obviously it's the same with Nancy Pelosi holding that sign awkwardly that says, we love Joe Biden. They know what they did. What Nancy Pelosi saying in no uncertain terms, I did what I had to do. Let's talk about, well, David Hersani has a piece about Obama's speech that we'll get to when we come back. I don't want to run late because I see a lot of comments coming in. I want to make sure that I get to your comments because we are having too much fun this morning on the program, and I know I'm going to run late. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Come explore the magic of Knapp Winery. It's the perfect fusion of wine, food, and panoramic views. This charming destination will delight every palate with a curated wine flight, wine by the glass, or your favorite bottle to share. Some special finds to try.
T-Mobile's coverage in my area is wonderful.
We have 8 acres, and it gives you peace of mind to know that you're going to have a reliable signal.
We enjoy hiking. We enjoy the outdoors. The coverage has been great.
And after investing billions to light up our network, T-Mobile is America's largest and fastest 5G network. Plus, switch and keep your phone. We'll pay it off up to $800. See how you can save on every plan versus Verizon and AT&T at T-Mobile.com/keep and switch. It's better over here.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990. Call now.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to viewer comments. First off, love the cries of defending democracy when in reality we are a constitutional representative republic. The American Communist Democrats are the real threat to their so-called democracy. Thank you so much. Another comment from a viewer. Is this true that Trump and his presidency, that he declined to take a salary? I remember that being one of his points back then that was widely known. And did he indeed abide by that? And he got the salary, that he didn't get the salary for being president? Yes, it was done. It had to be done in a way where he had to donate the salary. So it wasn't just, put it back into the coffers. It was, certain causes that he would donate his salary to. So yes, he did follow through on that. And the viewer saying that shouldn't he talk about that in his run for the presidency now? Yeah, I think it was really nice. And as he says, it shows the common people that he's made enough money in his lifetime and he's willing to serve as our early presidents did. And that was they left their farm and they did try to do something good for the country. And when they were done, maybe 4 years, 8 years, they returned to their livelihoods and they didn't have all of this expensive guardianship, things like that. Maybe a little bit, but not like we see now. They were just the farmers. And they wanted to help run our early country in the early days. Get back when it says here, it pictures that he's the common man. Is just going there to serve because he feels the call and that he could be the best choice. I just want your opinion. Then it says, thanks so much. I really appreciate your program and your honesty. Thank you. That was very nice of you. Yes, he did do that. I think it is a very good issue that Trump should be campaigning on to an extent, not too much. You don't want to look like you're patting yourself on the back too much. But yeah, he did not take a salary. He donated it to certain causes. He did follow through on that. And I do think it would show people that he's really, again, I think he's proven this time and time again, but that he is doing this for a place of bettering, or as he says, making America great again, and not for some type of personal gain, even though that's how the Democrats project onto him, that he's doing it for personal gain. All right, moving along here. David Hersani said, not only do Democrats fashion themselves the protectors of democracy, they claim to be champions of decency. Well, if the second day of the DNC is any indication, the left doesn't have any claim on the high moral ground. For one thing, no one at the DNC seemed even mildly constrained by the truth. More than once, for instance, Democrats falsely claimed that Trump had referred to the Tiki Torch Nazis of Charlottesville as very fine people. Democrats also falsely accused a former president of instructing Americans to inject bleach during the COVID pandemic. Chuck Schumer, who's painstakingly ignored the ugly and often violent Jew hatred that's infected his party, accused Trump of peddling anti-Semitism. Speaker after speaker warned that Donald Trump, a relative moderate on social issues, was going to ban in vitro fertilization, even though the former president has explicitly rejected any limits on fertility treatments. So it made all the sense in the world that the second night of the DNC featured former President Barack Obama, a man who probably did more to polarize American politics than any in modern history. Hypocritical moralizing of Obama's was on full display. It began with the former president's wife, Michelle, a strong speaker who can deliver a mind-bending platitude with the best of them. She preemptively accused anyone who opposed the Democrat presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, of being driven by racism and misogyny. Basically the same con the Obamas ran when they were in the White House. When it was former President Obama's turn, he lamented the ugliness of modern American politics before mocking Trump's weird obsession with crowd sizes by making weird hand gestures. Obama bemoaned that our politics had turned citizens against each other before accusing Republicans of being insular, slack-jawed hate mongers. As George Will once wrote, Obama is a pyromaniac in a field of straw men. But perhaps the most confusing aspect of the night was Obama's call for a return to decency. The former president, in fact, argued that America needed a new chapter, a better story, even though his own vice president, Joe Biden, has been in office for nearly 4 years. Come to think of it, Kamala Harris has also been in office for nearly 4 years. What had either done to make our politics less divisive or our lives more, quote, joyful? Politics is indecent in America today, as it has been for a long time. And the DNC offered us another example of how low we've sunk. Yes, insult, we've got to get through this divide and then continue to insult the American people, specifically insult Republicans, insult Trump. And I think David Hersani raises a really good point there about Obama saying we need a new chapter, a better story. Well, hasn't Biden been in there for 4 years? Hasn't Harris been in there for 4 years? And where was this quote? Scott Jennings, who is the Republican on CNN, the singular Republican on CNN, I thought he had a really good point. Democrats, listen to this. This is powerful. Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. And for all the talk about divisions and the problems in the country and people are hurting, Democrats have mostly controlled this country. Trump had it 4 years. The Obamas and Bidens had it for the rest of the time. And somehow it's still all Trump's fault. And somehow she hasn't been at the center of it. So to me, that is the glaring hole in this campaign that hasn't yet been solved at the convention. How do you explain all the problems that will be solved by the person who is currently in there for the last 3.5 years and who was supposed to be already working on solving it? What a great point by Scott Jennings. Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years, and somehow it's all Trump's fault. And then you have Harris, who's basically saying, hey, I'm going to fix all the algae if I get elected. This is what she said. And by the way, she's in office. She has been working behind the scenes. And we see how the economy is. We see how foreign policy is. We believe, this is Kamala Harris, we believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families. And when I am president, I will bring down the cost of groceries by making sure markets are competitive and fair. So she vows she will bring down the prices of groceries in January 2025 if she's elected president. After the holidays. Why are you not doing it now? We continue to mention it time and time again. Why will you make Americans suffer during the holiday season if you have the fix? I know Donald Trump's saying something similar yesterday, but I can't get over that by Scott Jennings. I'm going to put that to the side because I have a feeling we're going to be quoting that quite a bit, that Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. Somehow it's still all Trump's fault. Now, Politico, of all places, has said that Michelle Obama has abandoned her own plea to go high. Remember, that was a very famous line from one of her speeches, I believe at a different DNC, where she vowed, when they go low, we go high. Tonight, there was no going high. Instead, she accused former President Donald Trump of going small. And there was a lot of insults on Trump. That was, and I know a lot of you that watched it have been commenting on that this morning. That was the major focus. You've got a time where they keep calling J.D. Vance weird. Yeah, it was a lot of insults, a lot of name calling. And again, remember, we have to unify. We can't be divided, as Obama said. The irony or the hypocrisy at front and center on night number 2. Michelle Obama also told Democrats to do something as time runs low on Harris's White House push. And then, of course, slam Trump, continue to slam Trump. Don't complain if no one from the campaign has specifically reached out to ask for your support. There's simply no time for that kind of foolishness. This is your official ask. Michelle Obama is asking you. No, I'm telling y'all to do something. Chance of do something erupted. Okay. But as Politico said, Democrats just can't quit Donald Trump. Opposition to Trump is a unifying force at the DNC. So is it about the popularity of Harris, who they tell us has made the campaign joyous, made the election joyous? Or is it, as I have said on the program numerous times, anybody but Trump? So the Democrats, and again, I ask you to reach out if you are a Democrat, what your thoughts are about not having a say in your nominee, letting the elites and the big money decide who your candidate is. So if you have a problem with that, I've not heard from anyone that has, because at the end of the day, they don't care who was picked. It wasn't Trump. So if it was, I had someone specifically tell me I would vote for Donald Duck before I would vote for Donald Trump. So they don't care who is put in there. So that's why they don't mind behind the scenes. The elites got to pick. That's why Bernie Sanders gave a speech last night. He's used to it. He's used to the Democrat Party telling their voters, we don't trust you. Let us decide. So let's take a break. We're going to read viewer comments. When we come back, a little bit more about this piece on Donald Trump. We have a lot to cover still, and we have about a half an hour left, a little under a half an hour left. So keep those comments coming in, and we will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Hesselsen's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselsen's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselsen's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Introducing a brand new kitchen appliance that does all the work for you. A hassle-free solution that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it in one pot that you can set, then forget about, and come back to delicious, perfectly prepared meals that cook up to 60% faster without having to do a thing, except enjoy a little extra free time. From the trusted brand Power XL, there's the StirMax Multi-Cooker, the revolutionary new countertop appliance with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your favorite ingredients and walking away. No more stirring food. StirMax is the one-pot solution that does everything for you. The secret is the unique pot shape and groundbreaking StirMax technology that's automatically programmed to rotate the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise to help prevent jams and food from burning while infusing flavor. Powerful enough to even shred food. With large 7.5 quart capacity and lightweight, attractive design, the entire pan goes right to the table. StirMax features 9 different cooking functions: saute, slow cook, cook stews or soups, keep warm, steam and boil, cook risotto or rice. Plus, the multi-step smart presets, StirMax or BraiseMax, that sears and sautés food before automatically switching to simmer. With premium ceramic coating that's BPA, PFOA, and PTFE free, scratch-proof, and won't ever stick. Then the entire pan goes right into the dishwasher. Now, you can try the Power XL StirMax Multi-Cooker with tempered glass lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. But it gets even better. You also get the entire bonus package absolutely free. You get the steamer and rice basket. For fresh, healthy meals, the StirMax serving spoon and ladle. It snaps right on top of your StirMax, plus $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order next business day absolutely free. Plus, every StirMax comes with a 1-year ironclad VIP protection plan and a 90-day money-back guarantee. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio. As I mentioned, we do not have a Steuben Senior Services Fund interview this morning, but we return with the Steuben Senior Services Fund interview tomorrow with Don Berlew, Watkins Glen International President. We look forward to catching up with her. It seems like just yesterday we talked to her, and now summer's over, and we're talking to her again. And also, on Friday, we're going to be talking with our good friend, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. We're going to play catch up with him. We haven't talked to him in a little while, so we'll talk with him about all the issues in the state. And we'll have plenty of time both days to talk about the DNC. So do not worry about that. A couple comments from viewers. First off, RFK Jr. joins forces with Mr. Trump. Well, not quite yet, but it sounds like that could be the case. RFK Jr.'s running mate saying that they've got to judge what is best for the country, and they believe Trump-Vance ticket would be better for the country than Harris-Walz, but nothing is official yet. Now, Trump's saying he'd be more than happy to have him in a cabinet level, something to that extent. So that does change, according to betting odds, if you follow that kind of thing. It does change the direction for Harris a little bit, makes it more difficult for Harris. So I guess, according to many, and I still don't know if I completely accept it, but that RFK Jr. was stealing quite a few votes. Not stealing, he was taking away some of the votes from Trump. So that will be interesting if that becomes official, but thank you for passing that along. Next up, from a different viewer, I love the fact that they talked Pelosi. Now, what does that mean? It took me a second to understand what they meant. The old, well, we'll tell you our plan after Kamala is elected. Yes, the famous point from Pelosi that we'll find out what's in the bill after we pass it. That very similar to what we're hearing about Kamala's policies. So thank you. A different comment. what's your opinion on the abortion mobile being on site at DNC? Well, I've heard about that they have an abortion site on site, essentially. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, they're running heavily. Harris, even before she got the nomination, was running against Trump on the abortion issue. So, yeah, not necessarily a surprise. As a matter of fact, not a surprise at all. All right, we got other comments coming in. We'll get to those in just a moment. So as it was mentioned by Politico, Democrats just can't quit Donald Trump. For the first time in a long time, Democrats have a presidential nominee in Harris that they are excited about. But they can't quit Donald Trump. The party's muscle memory and strategic imperative for bashing him are just too strong. And so in the opening days of the DNC, this celebration of Harris has turned into a bludgeoning of the former president. I'm not going to go through all of what was said, but we know that. Hey, we've got a couple of waves there. Thank you. Karl Rove. Now, Karl Rove, say what you want. He was brilliant when it came to George W. Bush and getting George W. Bush elected. Since that time, let's just say we're not always on the same page. That's not to knock him. Just I sometimes wonder if he's maybe hasn't adapted to newer times. But here's what he had to say. Bidenomics. We were given a year and a half of things are better than you think they are, and we've done a good job. And that grates on the ordinary American because they see it every day. Now, grocery prices actually are not what's driving inflation today. It's services, rent, insurance, those kind of things. The cost of a car is dropping. Cost of used cars are dropping a lot. Food prices have moderated and in some instances begun to drop. But saying things are better than you think they are and we've done a great job is what the American people say, you created this, and I'm still adjusting to the fact that I'm spending a lot more and my paycheck ain't keeping up with it. Bidenomics was a terrible label. I had a marketing class. I learned one thing. If you got a lousy product, do not put your name on it. Okay. So that's how he started. It sounds on point. But then he talked about the enthusiasm at the DNC, and this was on day one. He said, this is normally what Republicans do, is they fall in line. But Democrats normally fall in love with their presidential candidate. And they're doing both this time around, meaning the Democrats are not only falling in line, but falling in love. And Karl Rove has a point there about Republicans. It's normally fall in line with, it's time for Romney. It's his turn. Oh, it's time for McCain. It's his turn. Okay. All right. But Democrats are ones that normally fall in love, and it's kind of the hero worship. In this case, Karl Rove says it's something that you have to be concerned about, that the Democrats are doing both, falling in love and falling in line. Stephen Collinson said it's now up to Harris and Walz to prove they can win. There's a few days left in the convention, right? It's time to turn joy into votes. Democrat Party Hall of Famers spent the first 2 days of their party's convention doubling down on their 11th hour wager of a new presidential ticket. Now it's all on Harris and Walz. The vice president and the Minnesota governor are largely unknown to vast swaths of this country and have experienced nothing like the looming of an election crash. I don't know if they'll be prepared for some type of flub, some type of issue, some type of October surprise, whatever. I don't know. But the media, I know, is prepared to do what they've done the last 3.5 years, which is to hide Biden's cognitive decline. They're willing to do that for 2.5 months, meaning to shield and protect Harris from any type of negative criticism, because then they can just run out the clock and get her to Election Day with the momentum, the history, the breaking of the glass ceiling, the brilliance. Finally, the reins are off because all those people quit working for her through the years. Those were the people keeping her down. Now you see the true Harris, and the true Harris is brilliant and a great presidential nominee. A presidential nominee who has never received a single vote to be said nominee. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we've got some comments from you, and then we are getting ready to wrap things up. We've got just about 15 minutes, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup. So you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
When your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere, you reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant, so fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
Order call 1-800-970-9843. That's 1-800-970-9843, or go to getbullseyepro.com. And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Akam. Get those last-minute comments in, as we have about 15 minutes left. We have so many... we'll get to as many comments as we can. We have other ones coming in. Here's one. I am a Republican. I have a close relative that will not vote because he doesn't like Trump. He doesn't think Harris is a good choice. He prefers Biden. Very interesting. I see, a lot. That's interesting, because most people that don't like Trump will end up holding their nose and voting Harris, it seems like. So interesting. Thank you. Next up, that's the Democrats. They say within their own speech contradictory ideas and have controlled the presidency for 12 of the last 16 years. And that is exactly why our country is in the shape it is in now. Wow, look at all these comments now coming in. It's all deceptive lip service. Boy, you guys have a lot of comments coming up. We're going to get to those in a moment. I can't read them live on the air, but I will do the best I can to read them after our last break. So get the last ones in as we move along. Yes, today is 31 days. Kamala Harris has not held a press conference since emerging as a presumptive now Democrat nominee, the Democrat nominee who has never voted on for said position. Now, the New York Post editorial board said on its first night, at least, the Democrat National Convention was all about the Republican nominee. And that would be, this has been since updated, it has been the 2 days. Speaker after speaker went after Donald Trump with a dozen mentions of his name, vastly more than anyone brought up the economy, the border, or perished the thought, inflation. It's all about anger at the opponent not offering a better or any vision for the country. This, again, New York Post editorial board. And to that point, it's tough to get out there and say, we're going to fix inflation. We're going to fix the border. When she, meaning Harris, had been in office for 3.5 years. And as Scott Jennings from CNN pointed out, Democrats have been in power out of the last 16 years, 12 of those years. And yet those 4 years of Trump, everything is to blame for that, according to the convention. Of course, Kamala Harris's vision and her entire party's is all about what the current president has delivered. Ever more government spending to benefit Democrats' dreams and special interests, resulting, of course, in killer inflation and a sluggish economy. That is, Democrats are the incumbent party, but they're going all out to pretend they're not. No wonder they accidentally let Monday night run long so that President Biden didn't take the stage till early midnight Eastern time. Otherwise, his speech angrily defending his record and generously noting how Harris helped him to achieve it might have reminded too many viewers of what a disaster the Biden-Harris years have been. What will the rest of the DNC offer? Vague praise of Harris's supposed amazing abilities, with no mention of anything she's actually done, certainly in this administration. A concerted effort to suggest a handing of the torch to her from Barack Obama, as if he were the last Democrat president. Endless platitudes about how Democrats standing with the working men, the middle class, etc., and a constant refrain of the orange bad man, because that's the only real message Democrats have left. Hey, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox.
It's the Chevrolet Summer Drive sales event and Blaze Alexander Chevrolet Buick GMC of Mansfield. The brand new Traverse is here. We have 5 in stock and they're ready to roll. Plus, we have the all-new Equinox EV on the lot. We're offering discounts and rebates as much as $11,000 on new Silverado 1500s and up to $6,000 on Silverado 2500 and 3500s. Get rates as low as 1.9% on much of the new Chevy lineup. Stop and shop or check us out at BlazeChevyMansfield.com because we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
I'm Marianne Burke. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Back to school arrived. Big Fox TV would like to remind you of some safety tips to keep our children safe in the community as they head back to school. These tips include learning bus safety, remembering bicycle safety, using main roads of travel, and staying in groups. Make sure your child knows what to do if approached by a stranger, and be sure your child knows their after-school plan. This reminder is brought to you by caring businesses in our community. Our friends at Tom's South Corning Collision, Cutler's Carpet, Suburban Propane, Fleet Pride, Sheddon's Wholesale, Gerald's Pharmacy, and
we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, wrapping up today's edition, the DNC Night 2 edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you so much for joining us. Get those last minute comments in. Here are a few comments from viewers. The Democrats have no policy. They have nothing except Trump, 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 Russia, Russia, Russia. Yes, very reminiscent. Thank you. They say different comment. They say anything to get your vote, but don't listen to themselves. Exactly. And next up, I'm old. I remember the 70s. I also remember being happy. I've never seen a time when we worried so much about speaking out. No freedom of speech, no freedom of religion, no freedom of our guns. This is absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen such a time. Thank you for the comment. So, yes, the self-censorship and the attacks on people when it comes to free speech is troubling. The attacks on the Second Amendment, as we've seen from Walls right out of the gate. We saw it during speeches throughout the night, and then a heavy focus on abortion. So many nice comments coming in. All right, we'll get to a few more. Hopefully, I can read them while on the fly. Okay. Harris promises swing state voters she'll be tough on the border. But if you recall, not only has she been in charge of said border for 3.5 years, she criticized Obama back in 2019 for deporting illegal immigrants. So now her term tougher, as if she was tough in the first place. As vice president, she backed the toughest border control bill in decades. Speaker Johnson slammed the Biden administration for a stunning IG report that shows 300,000 missing migrant children. This administration's failure to secure our border is facilitating what is the equivalent of a modern-day slavery operation. The southern border is a national security disaster and a humanitarian catastrophe, and Kamala Harris cannot be trusted to fix it. And this is one of the biggest scandals in American history. It's one of the most tragic, and we have to hold emergency hearings. All right. So, what else we got? I know I'm just running through things quickly. This seems like what we've been doing at the end of the program lately because we've had so much to cover. Kamala Harris's $1.7 trillion spending plan exposes her pixie dust fiscal policy, says Rich Lowry. Kamala Harris took a few brief minutes on the campaign trail to answer a couple of questions from reporters and flash her policy chops. When asked how she is going to pay for her lavish spending plans, the vice president explained that it would be covered via those indispensable fiscal tools, pixie dust and magical thinking. The expansion of the child tax credit, which will cost $1.2 trillion. According to Harris, the return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. Tax credits generally, including a $150 billion expansion of the earned income tax credit, well, we know that there's a great return on investment. Subsidies for home ownership costing $200 billion. Quote, when we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention our property tax base, and what that does to fund schools. Again, return on investment. In general, the vice president opined, I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. Because, she continued, when you were strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and invest in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits, and it pays for itself in that way. Now, clearly, someone mentioned return on investments to her in a policy briefing somewhere along the line, and that phrase really stuck with her. Now Harris apparently thinks she's the Warren Buffett of deficit spending. The concept of investment tends to be inapt in the context of government spending. In the private sector, when someone takes a risk of investing in a business or product and it doesn't work out, he or she pays the price. This ensures a measure of accountability and rigor that is lacking in government. There's a reason no one ever confuses the Department of Health and Human Services with Apple Inc. That doesn't mean that some projects don't create real returns, and I'm not going to go through all this. Magical realism or magical unrealism in budgeting is an entrenched bipartisan phenomenon in Washington. That's why we've gotten so much investing with so little return, except an ever-escalating debt and a series of worthless pledges about impending fiscal safety or spending. Like any huckster working in a boiler room, Harris is hoping to find people credulous enough to believe what's too good to be true. All right. Did you see the media try in the Harris campaign try to suggest because Trump was speaking at a rally in Michigan that Michigan city was the capital, the KKK capital of Michigan? So he gives a speech, and where was the exact town? Harris campaign has claimed where Howell, Michigan, there it is. Howell, Michigan is the, quote, KKK capital of Michigan. Trying to, I guess, suggest that he was giving some type of Klan rally. After his speech in Howell, a reporter asked Trump to respond to the attacks from Vice President Harris's campaign. The reporter asked Trump to, quote, respond to Kamala Harris's campaign attacking him for being in Howell, pointing to it being linked to white supremacy. So that was the question. Trump responded to the reporter and said, who was here in 2021? The reporter responded, Joe Biden. And Trump said, thank you, and walked away. Well, hey, that would be a history of Harris, right? Harris back in 2019 calling her now boss a bigot and a racist. So maybe that tracks. Biden's Commerce Secretary did admit that Trump had a booming economy during his presidency. That's on CNBC's Squawk on the Street. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said that President Donald Trump's administration, the deficit exploded in a time of economic prosperity. And what Trump did was somehow he managed to explode the deficit even in the middle of a booming economy. So yes, of course, it was a backhanded comment, but admitted that he had a booming economy. Now, this is something I wanted to spend more time on, and we're not going to have time for it because we are out of time. This is something that should terrify us. We had mentioned this. There's a couple avenues we can take this. You see Biden and his mental health play out at the debate. And we said, what does this do to our foreign adversaries? What are we doing on the foreign front? Well, Biden is secretly ordering the United States to prepare for nuclear threats from China, Russia, and North Korea. This is coming from a new report. Biden made the shift in March because the Pentagon believes China's nuclear arsenal will rival the U.S. and Russia, the New York Times reported yesterday. The new strategy is called the Nuclear Employment Guidance and also readies the U.S. for a possible coordinated threat between China, Russia, and North Korea. In a pair of recent speeches, two senior administration officials have hinted at the growing Chinese nuclear threat. Quote, the president recently issued updated nuclear weapons employment guidance to account for multiple nuclear-armed adversaries, and in particular, the significant increase in the size and diversity of China's nuclear arsenal. And this is at a time when we see the cognitive decline. And keep in mind, we talk about the election just being a few short months away, but he is still in office till January. Now, I'm not saying this is the wrong decision by the administration. I'm just saying it concerns you when you start to realize the threat that is there from Iran, China, and Russia. And we know that they don't want anything to happen because Harris could be, meaning Biden and Harris don't want anything to happen. They even told our allies, don't do anything about Iran gaining nuclear weapons because we don't want to start any issues before the election. Remember that? But we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the great comments. Thank you to everybody who sent in a wave. What a busy morning. Here's a comment, last comment from a viewer. I'm so sick and tired of various people who have no self-respect accusing others of bigotry or racism. Very good point. Thank you. I know. I think I missed a few along the way, and I apologize because we had so many waves coming in. But we are out of time. Join us tomorrow. Don Berlew from Watkins Glen International will be our guest. And then on Friday, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Get those questions in to me ahead of time if you have any questions for either of our guests. And I really would appreciate it. And thank you for all the comments today. Have a great day, everyone. We will be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. with day 3 of the DNC coverage starting at 6 a.m. right here on Frankly Speaking. We will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great day.